afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. You see the title there is how to start and maintain an emergency fund. So I'm going to start off first of all with a story. Let's get the right place. Okay, I want you to meet the thereiner family. The COVID crisis is not the first one that Mangesh Rain is 42 years old, a captain with a prominent airline in India, has faced. In 2019, he was working with Jet Airways when the airline suspended operations. They were not paid salaries for 3 months. But this time around, with the COVID crisis, the situation has become grimmer in the sense that jobs everywhere have been affected. But that's not the case, obviously, with Mangesh, in the sense that he has an emergency fund in place. He has his friends that have lost their jobs and things like that, but he spends his time with his family at home, and obviously with his wife, she's a homemaker, and their 2 daughters. So he sleeps well at night because of his emergency fund, which has rescued him and his family every time. He was brought up from a young age by his mother, the importance of having an emergency fund, and Mangesh over the years has saved up the equivalent of 12 months income. So I'm telling you the story because the emergency fund is supposed to cover your expenses for a period of at least 6 months in case of your retrenchment, dismissal, or any other situation that can prevent you from earning an income. My name is Sean van den Berg. I'm an investment specialist here at PSG Wealth. I'm passionate about teaching people about building blocks for financial security. My objective today is to discuss why an emergency fund should be set up before you start investing, and the peace of mind this will provide. So my hope is that this idea, that the ideas through this presentation will inspire you to start an emergency fund. So how do you save for this? So let me quickly highlight or show you our agenda for today. Just get there again, the wrong place. There we go. So we're going to discuss 3 things broadly. Why do you need an emergency fund? How do you calculate the amount you would need? What investment vehicles are suitable for investment for an emergency fund? Yeah, it's just an interesting little thing I came across also. This is from a website called CNBC. Do you know that just 39% of Americans can pay for $1,000 emergency expense right now, which is equivalent to about 15,000 Rand? So imagine you're in South Africa. I think it'd be much worse than that. But the point is, fewer than 4 in 10 people are able to have enough savings to pay for an emergency of $1,000. The rest of the people, the other 60%, will have to borrow from friends, use a credit card, or take out a personal loan. And the whole idea is you don't want to be in that situation. So why do we need an emergency fund? So there are many different building blocks that you need to establish a foundation for financial security. One of the most important is emergency fund. Emergency fund, as I mentioned just now, ensures that you're prepared for unexpected expenses, so you don't find yourself in debt, or worse, because of a lack of money when you need it. So while most people have heard they need an emergency fund, most don't have one. So it's just as a matter of fact, so just do a quick little poll. Let me just bring this up quickly. As I say, most people have heard of a poll. I've heard of emergency fund, but I'm interested to find out how many of you guys actually have a emergency fund in place. So let's go launch this quickly and see what's answered. So the whole idea is that we have emergency fund in place. I mean, if you do have funds, and my question there is, do you have emergency fund, yes or no? Okay, so things are coming through. Okay, this looks like around about 80% of you do have emergency funds and 20% don't. Okay, so I presume the 20%, the 80% that do have funds, so the next question would be from there is, do you have enough funds? Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks for participating. Interesting stuff. So it's about 80-20. Awesome. Great. Cool. So hope you guys can see my screen again. So while saving for emergency fund may not seem fun, having one to pay off, having one will pay off obviously a lot, pay off in many ways, and that's my objective today: show you why emergency funds important. So let's go ahead and discuss everything that you need to know about creating an emergency fund. The whole idea is obviously to serve as a safety net and also give you that peace of mind. That's my main objective today with the emergency fund. Just move that out the way again. So what is the emergency fund? What it is money you set aside um, that you can quickly access. So that's important, quick access for any unexpected problem. It's money specifically earmarked for expenses that you must pay. Okay, so this is not obviously the holiday fund or anything like that. This is unexpected expenses that pop up. It exists separately from retirement savings, as I mentioned now, any other specific savings like your holiday fund or your um, home renovation fund and things like that. The main idea also here is that hopefully you'll never ever have to use this money. That's the whole idea, is that the emergency fund there is only for emergencies. Okay. So, 8 ways to get going on an emergency fund. So it covers, as I mentioned just now, in the event of an unexpected financial blow, you have the resources in place to help you not go into debt. Okay, so step number one, if you just started working, for example, and you just started you're getting your first salary income coming in, and you just started budgeting, this is a great opportunity for you to set funds aside now for an emergency fund. So a lot of us don't expect to have this as an item in our budget, but this whole idea is that we budget for it. So we might budget for our rent and our food and things like that. You want to set funds aside for an emergency fund. Also, the whole idea is that you might have a goal, as I mentioned just now, saving for a holiday, a trip overseas, whatever the case might be. If you do not have an emergency fund in place, you're going to be dipping into into your holiday fund. You don't want that. That's why you want to budget separately for emergency fund. And also, point number 3 there, if you're trying to pay off debt and now an unexpected expense comes up, now you're going to increase your debt. You don't want to be in that situation. Now, hence, another reason for you to have an emergency fund. If you're a one income household, that's even more reason for you to have a emergency fund in place. Especially if you're a family, you need at least, I would say, at least a 12 months income as a buffer against any unexpected expenses like retrenchment, especially in this current economic climate. If you're self-employed or a contractor, it's important also to have that emergency fund in place because it's a buffer. We know that we saw what happened during the COVID crisis when the first lockdown came in, how many businesses were affected. And I know that some restaurant owners did have some savings saved up as emergency fund, but there were many people that did not. Okay, so if you're self-employed, also very important to have that emergency fund in place. It's just, as I say, that peace of mind. If you own your own home, and this is where I always find my biggest expense is any expenses in my home and things like that, be it a pool pump that's packed up. I've had this before. I've had my gate motor stolen, all those kind of things. If I didn't have emergency fund in place, I would have had to dip into or create more debt. Okay, so this is again over and above your renovation. I still plan to renovate my kitchen and renovate one of my other bathrooms. That's a separate savings account. Emergency fund is for those unexpected emergencies that come up. If you live far away from your family, another reason for having an emergency fund, I found this a few years ago when my father got sick suddenly. I had to fly down to George, to Mossel Bay, to go see my mom. And thank goodness for emergency fund, I can use that very quickly, transfer the funds into my debit card. I could have used that then to pay for the tickets. And also, if you have any medical issues, over above your medical aid, you want to have that little peace of mind that you can cover unexpected medical aid issues and things like that, or medical issues. Okay, so that just gives you that peace of mind. That's the main idea that I want to come up through this presentation, this slide. So how do you calculate the amount you needed? I mentioned just now that the size of the emergency fund will depend on many things. Obviously, number one, your lifestyle, your monthly cost, your income, how many dependents you have. Most financial experts say between 3 and 6 months. As I say just now, up to 12 months you can have. So as a starting point, you want to save up at least 3 months basic living expenses. That's what they say in the books and things like that. 3 months living expenses. I just like to simplify it and say 3 months income. So whatever income you're getting at the moment, I like to have that as a buffer in the emergency fund. So remember, the 3-month guideline is just generally recommended by those who have a salaried position. Obviously, have secure employment, but putting aside 3 to 6 months might not be enough. And that's why it's always advisable to have as much as you can in the emergency fund saved up. So how do you go about it? So first of all, I mentioned just now having a monthly budget. So on a monthly basis, you got your income coming in, and you sit down and you allocate all your funds to all your different expenses, all your different accounts. And one of those accounts that you set aside is your emergency fund. Okay, it's just an easy way to get going. You allocate it to it, and you'll see in a few slides just now how we go about doing that. So track your monthly income expenses for a few months, and you'll start seeing these are regular expenses that come up all the time. And once in a while, you also remember, geez, that's what happened to me. Every year I forget that our car licenses have to be renewed, and a few cars in the household. That adds up a quick whammy if you don't budget for that. So that is our annual expense that you can aim for. But the whole idea is that you set an emergency savings goal. So you'll see in the slides just now, we talk about 20,000 Rand. In income, you want to save up 3 months' income, so you need to save up 60,000 Rand. So that's your goal. That's your very first goal that you want to save up for, is your emergency fund. And then develop a plan to start saving. And the easiest way to do that is just to have an automatic debit order in place. I'm with Capitec, so I've created a separate savings account, and I just transfer the funds across, and I set it up as a recurring what do you call it, a recurring transfer, and it goes into that little account all the time. Okay, and as I say, what's important is the funds must be accessible. So I just move my funds from one fund to another account on an app. But the main idea is having flexibility and liquidity, having access to those funds, very important. And the most difficult thing of this whole thing is sticking to your plan. This is where the discipline comes in. And say to yourself, this is forever savings, and this is my money, and it's not like a grudge purchase, like insurance. This is something that you're saving for yourself, and obviously having it clear in mind that it's not for you to go into debt. This is to save you. So it's like a more positive savings plan, call it that. So this is something I came across. You can see it at the bottom here, Business Tech. This is an example of the average South African household. This is the budget going back to 2017. And they were working on an average income of 138,000. This is for the year. And the consumption expenditure was 103. So obviously you can work out the difference there was about 34,875. I've gone one step further and just broken it down to monthly, and I've also broken it down. They gave the percentages for these different categories. I'll just put it into Rand terms to see how it all works together. So there's two assumptions that you can make here. Number one, the difference between these two here can be the tax that a person would have paid. I'm assuming, just to simplify things, that extra 38,000 a year is disposable income that they could waste. That's a choice they could have. They could waste that money, or ideally, a situation where they can use that for savings and investments. Because you see all these different categories here, so these people are not saving and investing. So there's two ways to look at it. Either it can be the tax, okay, that they're paying, which is roughly about 30%, or it can be savings. So I'm going to take the savings side and say, okay, let's have that additional income just now, and let's put it into some kind of a savings vehicle. But you can see at least a third of your income, most households, a third of the income is going to housing, water, and lights. Transport's a big one also, and we start looking at things like food, etc., and so it goes on. But bottom line, you can, if you sit down on a monthly basis and create your own little budget and say, okay, where's my money going to, and start tracking your money, you can also see where you're wasting money. That's our idea here. So I found this a few years ago. I found this very useful, and I started teaching my children about it. It's called the 50-20-30 budget. So instead of think of budgets, people hate having a budget because they think it's constraints. I like to think of 50, 20, 30 goals. Okay, so here's your 50% budget or goal. So 50% of my money, I like to spend it onto what we call needs or necessities. So example of that 20,000 Rand I was using as income just now. So using 10,000 Rand, we'll be going to rent, food, utilities, and if you've got any credit card debt and things like that, paying off that debt. And we'll talk about debt just now again in more detail. But the whole idea here is that you're paying the minimum that's supposed to be going at this point in time. But ideally, you should not be having what I call bad debt, bad credit cards and things like that. Then we got our wants, we got our needs, and we got our wants. We got our financial freedom account and our long-term savings. This is all part of our 20% budget. This is my savings and investments. Okay, so 10% of my 20,000, 2,000 Rand, I'll be allocating to shares. Ideally, if you're still starting out, putting into a retirement annuity, and if you've got a pension fund or a provident fund of your company, try and maximize that tax saving as much as you can. And then later on bring in all the other kind of investments into this. This is what I call my long-term financial freedom account. Then my long-term savings account, again, 2,000 Rand or 10%. This is where that emergency fund fits into. So before you start this, I suggest that you start your emergency fund. This is also, as I said, you can have a separate account for holidays and also unexpected medical expenses. These are all different separate accounts that you want to set up. You can have a unit trust account, 5 years plus, for your holidays, etc. But go one step further, you can also say, this is my 30% budget. This is again the wants. So 10% you want to allocate to personal development, improving yourself, spending your money on books and courses and coaching and mentoring and things like that. As I say, this is personal development. You worked hard for your money, so you also want to be enjoying your money. So allocate 10% or 2,000 Rand in this example to spoiling yourself and your family. So we're coming up to the long Easter weekend. So this is where you would have budgeted for it and saved up the money, and you would have been able to go away with the family because you had saved up that money. Okay. And then save 10% of your income for church donation, for church tithings or charitable donations. Is another way of looking at it, is what I call the give account. Okay, so this is just a 50, 20, 30 budget. I like to think along the lines of goals. These are my goals to set these funds aside every month. And it's just a nicer way of looking at, call it a budget. Okay, so what investment vehicles are suitable? And remember, the main idea here is the funds must be accessible. So I came across this website, if I remember rightly, was a Business Insider, and they were talking about where can you get the best interest rates right now. So remember, the whole idea is to keep emergency fund for liquid investment. So the first thing that comes to mind is having a bank account, having a savings account, and there's various accounts you can look at. We talk about call deposits and notice deposits and fixed deposits, and even go so far as a money market account. Okay, you can look at all the different kinds of interest you're earning here. What's important to understand is this little quote thing up top here: strike a balance between earning interest and having easy access to your money. So with my Capitec account, they're only giving you 2 to 3% per year on your cash balance. Okay, but what's important, I have immediate access to my money anytime. Those deposits, you see the interest rates slightly bit higher. what's important to understand, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. The more liquid your money, the less interest you'll be earning. So obviously, the more the money is tied up, that's how you earn more interest. So this trade-off between earning interest and having access to your money. So with a notice deposit, you have to wait 32 days before you can have access to funds. And it's interesting to note that this article is referring to African Bank offering you 11.11% interest rate now for 60-month or 5-year fixed deposit. It was followed by, I think it was, what was it? Discovery Bank was offering you 8.35%, and FNB was coming in third with, was it 8%? Okay, so that was for a fixed deposit 5-year account. Okay. Money market deposits, we're giving you 3.45%. Again, you can have immediate access to that. And then money market unit trust, also interesting to note that the average last year was 5.4%. That was in a money market account. You can also look at things like income funds. They're giving you slightly bit higher. Just understand with a money market account, they're giving you interest on a monthly basis. Income funds are giving you income on a daily basis. Okay, so that's why you can use the magic of compounding there. You can see which ones are better. But this gives you a good idea where to find these kind of returns and where to park that emergency fund of yours. So this is from Nedbank, and I looked at all the different websites, all the different banking sites, are all very much the same. Nedbank, again, gives you that facility where up to 9,999, they'll give you 3%. That's a normal rate. And then anything over 10,000 Rand, it's amazing that they give you less. So they're actually penalizing you having too much money in your savings account. Okay. So you can see 32-day notice, anything less than 2.5, you only get 2.45%, and the say goes up. The more funds you've got in your 32-day notice account, obviously a bit more interest you're getting there. But remember, you have to give 32 days notice to be able to get your money out. So only on the 33rd day, you'll have access to your funds. This is a 12 months fixed deposit with Nedbank. You see the different rates of the returns you're getting there. What's important also, you can see slightly bit higher at expiry. Okay, so we've got the normal rate, and then you get a 4.85% on R1 million plus. Okay, money market balance less than 50,000, you're getting no interest. So money market account with Nedbank, not the place to park your money. You also see there 3.345%. Doesn't matter how much you got there. So money market account, maybe you look at something else. Okay. So I hope it gives you a bit of idea where to park your money. So we've seen the upside. Let's look at the downside. There are disadvantages, obviously, having emergency funds. So first of all, it takes money away from your other financial goals. Okay, so for, as I mentioned just now, your retirement fund and things like that. But the main idea here is that if you get your emergency fund up as soon as possible, it gives you that peace of mind. You don't have to create more debt and things like that. And also, remember, it presents an opportunity cost to leaving money in the savings account. So that money can be working harder for you, for example, in an equity portfolio. Instead of getting 3%, you can be getting at least 10 to 15% per year in an equity account. And obviously, inflation risk. This is the buying power of your money. You might have saved up 100,000 Rand today. 100,000 Rand in 5 years' time will not be the same because inflation has eaten it up. Okay, so just be aware of that. So it's just something that it's a trade-off. But the whole idea is to have that emergency fund in place to give you that peace of mind. And something happens, I have access to funds that's been budgeted for. Okay. So, guys, just quickly before we wrap up here, I want to see if there's any questions coming through. Remember the whole idea that, and I've been harping on it, the emergency fund is intended to keep you out of debt. Okay, something that you budget for, the emergency fund, you build up those funds. But the whole idea is to get you out of debt, and down the line, as I say, it gives you that peace of mind. So in conclusion or summary, emergency fund gives you that peace of mind. You'll have the money to cover your living expenses for a while. Emergency fund is the key to your financial security. So I look at it as the first building block gives me that financial security. Then I can start looking at building towards financial independence, and then I can look at building myself towards financial freedom. Okay, so yeah, guys, I hope this has been beneficial for you. In conclusion, obviously the main product we highlighted today was a bank account. PSGs don't offer bank accounts, but it's a good place to start putting your money or create that emergency fund is in a bank account. Those of you that are looking at down the line for creating a separate savings account for holiday fund and home funds and things like home renovation funds, you might want to look at opening a unit trust account. Yeah, PSG online, PSG well, sorry, we call it a voluntary investment plan account. This is where you can actually label the account. So don't just call it a savings account, give it a name, overseas trip holiday fund. So you know that you don't want to dip into this in case of emergency. But this presentation is being recorded, and hopefully I'll be able to send it out in the next day or two. But from my side, guys, here's our contact details. You can get us on our email address, wealth@psg.co.za, or our OneStream line, 0868 000 368. From my side again, thank you very much for being on this webinar. Hope you've enjoyed, learned something from it. I know it's very basic, and obviously it's aimed at the novice, the beginner, but I believe that some of you that have been around for a long time would have benefited from it. So from my side, thank you very much. Enjoy your day, and from now and until next month, all the best. Bye for now.